Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as Celtic's pre-season continues and we get closer to our next game against Sporting tomorrow night, we have a few things to go over, including a left back who has been linked with the club, some articles going as far to say that he's on his way to Celtic. We'll talk about that. We've got a new away kit which has finally been revealed, and it's that time of year again where Odsonne Edouard gets linked with a move back to Celtic. So yeah, an exciting one for you today as we cover all that. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. We're very close now to 51,000 subscribers. You guys are piling in at the minute, and I love that. So thank you all for your support. We'll be live tomorrow night for the friendly against Sporting Club. We'll be doing a watch along, one of the more exciting friendlies of pre-season. But before that, we have a few things to cover, and we should probably start with Odsonne Edouard. I was going to start this segment off by saying I can't believe we're linked with Odsonne Edouard yet again, but I can believe we're linked with Odsonne Edouard yet again. In fact, this was very predictable this summer, and probably more predictable than most summers. We know his situation at Crystal Palace is unsure. They're ready to offload him after a loan move to Leicester that didn't go so well, and linking him with Celtic is the easiest story anyone could write, and I'm surprised it's taken till July 14th and July 15th for it to actually get going. However, there is a little bit of meat on the bone with it that we should probably discuss, even though I still am a bit sceptical that it will happen. So this all started last night when Sébastien Vidal, a French journalist, reported that Crystal Palace have put Odsonne Edouard on the market this summer, but he went on to say after that that Celtic are monitoring the situation closely, with Brendan Rodgers considering a return for the 27-year-old striker he once launched in Glasgow. So that story started doing the rounds, the tabloids went mental with it, and now we have ourselves in a situation where we are obviously talking about Edouard being this striker that we're going to bring into the club. We've spoke about the need for a striker this summer. We've been linked with a good few since Kyogo left in January, but there's a lot of logic that would point towards Edouard being the smartest signing of those linked strikers. So yeah, imaginations are running wild right now. And of course now you have seen these sorts of headlines everywhere linking Edouard back with the club. It's been in the Record, it's been in the Sun, every Celtic fan is talking about it, and it's one that of course splits opinion. You have the Celtic fans who love and cherish everything that Edouard done for the club and would kill for him back, but then you have the Celtic supporters who are very much on the side of "Oi, down tools," and he shouldn't be back at Celtic, and it's the club regressing. And I would like to make one thing clear that I seen put really well on Twitter this morning. Both things can be true at the moment. Both things can be true, that signing Edouard is once again us going back for a former player and showing that the recruitment system is flawed because we're relying on old flames. But it can also be true that Edouard is a quality footballer who scored almost 100 goals for Celtic and has proven known quality that would be low risk at Celtic. Both of these things can be true without getting into a fight with your best pal. So yeah, it's one that's going to divide opinion, but honestly, I don't think it's one that we need to get all that concerned about because, well, I don't think there's too much in it right now. The journalist who reported it, Sébastien Vidal, who we spoke about, isn't exactly a Fabrizio Romano or a David Ornstein. Yes, he might have something, and it could be something there. I'm not discrediting him by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also, as I said, a very easy story to write. In fact, it's the same story that's been wrote 2 of the last 5 years since he left the club. Like, we have seen this time and time again, Edouard being linked with Celtic. It's a way to get clicks, it's a way to sell papers, and that's all I think this really is, to be quite honest. Now, Brendan Rodgers was the guy who signed Odsonne Edouard, and that means that he could be interested, and he could be monitoring that situation. But I also think he'll be monitoring many situations, and the club will be monitoring many situations. He could be an option. Of course he could, but I just don't see much in it right now. Until we get more from a much more reputable source, I think you can stop getting carried away with this right now, because I think it's just very, very unlikely. But I guess you guys come here for my opinion, and you want to know what I would think about a potential Odsonne Edouard return if, there was a chance of it happening, if hypothetically it was in the works. What would I think? Well, I'm not going to backtrack, because if you go back a few weeks ago, there's live streams, and I'm sure people will have seen it, where I said I wasn't for the return of Odsonne Edouard. It wasn't one that really jumped out to me, and that mostly came down to his record over the last couple of years, because look, I mean, he's played 8 games of football across the 24 or 25 campaign, didn't score in any of those. He's really struggled for match fitness, he's struggled for minutes, and of course that means he's struggled for goals, and the thought of bringing back somebody just so out of rhythm, I thought was us taking a big risk. But I'm not going to lie, the more I sit here and the more I think about Odsonne Edouard coming in and being an option beside Adam Ida, I think that's very, very good. And the main reason why is because of this, his Celtic goal record. Not bad for somebody who allegedly downed tools. 179 games, 87 goals, 37 assists. You can try and paint Odsonne Edouard's Celtic career in any way you like. You're entitled to your own opinion. But the stats don't lie. The numbers don't lie. And the numbers in that final season he was at Celtic don't lie. He was very, very good for us. And he is a very, very good player up here in Scotland. And I don't think that can be denied. I think it would be daft to turn your nose up at him. And just for the people who did say that he downed tools in that final season, in that 2021 campaign, 16 goals, 5 assists in the 26 Premiership games before moving on to the split and scoring a further 2 in those 5. That's an 18-goal campaign in the league alone for somebody who allegedly downed tools. It just never made sense to me then. It doesn't make sense to me now. Listen, I want Celtic to look at all options before reverting back to Edouard. This isn't me changing my tune to say that's the guy we should go and get. But if Celtic got a bargain for him to bring him back and he could hit the ground running and provide competition for Adam Ida, I just think it would be daft to turn your nose up at it. That's all I'm saying. That's all. But we have a big job to do. We've got recruitment we need to go through, right? And ultimately, at the end of the day, I really don't think this is likely. I think it's very unlikely. I think there's barely anything in it. And it'll go away like it does every summer. We should probably turn our attention to more likely transfers, and last night Celtic fans got a little bit of excitement when reports in Belgium suggested that we were close to making our next signing, that being in Flavio Nazinho, the left back out of Portugal who currently plays for Cercle Bruges in Belgium. Well, there was a report that came out saying that he's on his way to Celtic, but we've had to calm ourselves from there because I think there's been a bit of confusion. However, we know he's someone on Celtic's radar. We know he's somebody who's been linked a couple of times over the past 2 or 3 weeks. And he would be a very good left-back option. Hopefully one that is on his way to Celtic eventually. Let's have a look at what happened. So this was the translated article from HLN in Belgium, who used the headline of Nazinho on his way to Celtic. Very straight off the bat, no punches pulled, straight out there saying that he was on his way to Celtic, and they reported that Cercle Bruges are in danger of losing Flavio Nazinho in the short term. The Portuguese left-back is high on Celtic Glasgow's wish list after his excellent under-21 European Championship. Celtic recently saw Greg Taylor leave for PAOK and have set their sights on Nazinho as backup for Tierney. They go on to talk about the player a little bit, and that's basically it. So that was the headline that got everybody talking, and then suddenly, articles like this popped up in the Record, who quoted that, saying that Nazinho was on his way to Celtic as Brendan Rodgers was getting his transfer wish granted. They just used the same words from the HLN article, but I think ultimately there has been a little bit of confusion, and there has been no reports of a Celtic bid, of negotiations with a player. There's been nothing to say that he is actually physically on his way to Celtic, and we just need to calm ourselves down for a wee 5 minutes. It's all came through a bit of loose translation. And a big credit to Everything Celtic, who pointed this out very quickly yesterday, that the quote was perhaps taken out of context through translation. They did confirm he's a target for Celtic, but there is no mention of a bid or anything such as that yet. However, I hope that's coming, because he looks like a good player. A very good player. He played 29 games in the league alone last season for Cercle, and then a further 10 on top of that across European competitions. And despite the struggles of Cercle Bruges, they had to play in relegation playoffs. He had quite a good campaign personally. He chipped in, he contributed from that left-back position with 8 assists and 2 goals. He was one of the standouts, and now it's no secret they're in a situation where they do need to consider selling top assets. They're not in a great position. It's not quite a tragedy for Cercle Bruges. They're not in an absolute disaster as a club, but I think there is reports that they need to move players on, they need to bring some money in, and Flavio Nazinho is one of those players. He's somebody that will need to move on. There has been links with big clubs across Europe. I think Real Sociedad were mentioned, a couple of teams in the Serie A as well. This is somebody who would be more than adequate cover at the left-back position for Celtic. And at only 21 years of age, if used correctly, he could be the heir to Kieran Tierney. And he can be used across that left-hand side, further up the pitch as well. I think this would be a very smart signing for Celtic. If he's keen on the move to Celtic, go and make it happen. Valued at €3 million, go and make it happen. This would be one of the top options, I think, out there to be a backup left-back at Celtic. And being a backup left-back at Celtic is actually going to end up with you probably starting at least 15 games this season. So it's not like he's going to be deprived of football. Ultimately, it'll be down to the player if he wants to come in and do that. But Celtic should throw everything they've got at it. I think he looks great. And there's, he'll be getting linked to big clubs for a reason. Had a good season, stand out in Belgium. Hopefully that loose translation about him being on his way to Celtic becomes reality soon, because we should be all in on this. And just to finish off for today, Celtic have finally released the away shirt for the 25-26 campaign, and I'm not a massive fan of it. I've made that clear. When the leaks came out a few months ago, I said how disappointed I was, and it's carried over now. I think some people have been won over after the promotional launch of the shirt. Not me though. Not me. So, inspired by the iconic 90s away kits, this Adidas away jersey adds its own twist with engineered horizontal pinstripes etched in neon green, while the black base helps to create an elegant, modern interpretation of a classic club look. So here it is here. Looks so much different. They've used so many lighting tricks in this to make the kit actually look better and different. It doesn't look like this. It doesn't, and I'll show you in a second how it doesn't look like this. It's not as dark as this. But this is the shirt. As you can see, Vickers and Forrest look fucking delighted. They look delighted by the new away shirt. And look, it's not terrible. It's definitely not the worst Celtic shirt I've ever seen, but I'm just still so disappointed. And they're trying to play off that iconic 1997-98 away shirt that Larsson wore so famously. But it just doesn't feel anything like that. The collar is ridiculous. It's one of the worst collars I've ever seen a football shirt. It'll make it so horrible to wear, that collar alone. And I just, you know me, I love my football shirts, but I can't get behind this one. There's just something about it that it's just not there for me. So as I said, here's the promotional photos where it looks like this, and I think the shade of green looks so much nicer. But when you scroll down to the actual shirts that you can buy, it's not that shade of green. It's two completely different colours. There's the two versions, of course, £75, £120 authentic edition. The only difference that I've managed to spot in them is if you zoom into the authentic shirt, there is like a pattern that kind of goes through the black that you can see here. That's not on the cheaper version. And that's basically it. That's the only difference that I can spot visually anyway. There'll be a lot of differences in material and fit probably, but that's just not what you can see with the eye. One of the reasons I hate this shirt though, and this is what, it was growing on me ever so slightly, and this is, I don't know if it's just me because I'm niche and I'm awkward as fuck, but see when you look at the back, do you not just think that looks horrible? Look at it. No sponsor to break up the stripes, no square to put the number in, no nothing to break it up. It just looks horrible. I just don't like it. Like, I don't know. There's just something off about this shirt that could have been great, and I think there's so much more they could have done with it to make it better. The collar is enough to put me off it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me. I'm saying all this now, in a year's time I'll own it and I'll probably flaunt it as one of my favourite Celtic shirts ever, knowing me. but it's got a long way to go before it grows on me. Yeah. Right, that does it for today. If you have enjoyed, please let me know in the comments below. Hit like, hit subscribe, and let me know all your thoughts to everything we've spoke about as well. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, for the watch along and for any news updates if anything happens. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. Until then, take care of yourself, God bless, and I'll see you all next time.